Hey, Fidelity. What's it cost to invest with the Fidelity app?
Start with as little as $1 with no account fees or trade commissions on U.S. stocks and ETFs.
That's music to my ears.
I can only talk.
Investing involves risk, including risk of loss. Zero account fees apply to retail brokerage accounts only. Sell order assessment fee not included. A limited number of ETFs are subject to a transaction-based service fee of $100. See full list at fidelity.com/commissions. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC, member NYSE, SIPC.
If your small business has a problem, you could say,
"Ugh, just my luck."
But you should say,
like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
And we'll help get you back in business. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
A warm-up for the low. Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN family of podcasts. We've got an excellent podcast for you. As joining me in segment number 2, we're going to have one of our good friends aboard as we're going to be looking at this great game of baseball with Curtis Rogers, who does such great work over at 710 Seattle Sports. We're going to talk to him about the current landscape of the playoff picture out there in the American League, the Seattle Mariners, and so much more. So we're going to be in for a lot of fun there in the final segment. Going to get you guys picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Friday as we touch them all. If you do have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of two ways we will fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, letters CM, naming does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. The other way is via an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. While I did not get in any Twitter/X questions today, everything is powered by EdgeBoost. EdgeBoost is making sure that bettors are able to have access to their funds whenever and wherever they want. 100% of gambling transactions do get approved with EdgeBoost, and when you go to edgeboost.bet, put in that promo code of Greg, G-R-E-G, that gets you a $1 for $1 match on your first deposit up to $25. Now let's take a look back at everything that we saw in baseball on Thursday. Try to find some trends and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
Your top over team was a little bit underwhelming in the Toronto Blue Jays, but that's because Kevin Gausman was pretty stinking good. They are now at 80 overs, 60 unders, and 6 pushes as the Blue Jays get the job done against the Houston Astros 6-0. Astros, by the way, scoring the fewest runs per game of any team in the American League since the All-Star break, and Christian Javier did not have a great start himself. 4 runs allowed in 6 innings, gave up a home run to Davis Schneider, his 11th home run season as Kevin Gausman. Complete game, 9 punch-outs, allowed 2 hits. He was absolutely rocking and rolling, and for the Houston Astros, Lance McCullers Jr. out of the bullpen, he gives up 2 runs, one of which was earned. And then for the Miami Marlins, they shut out the Washington Nationals, 5-0 the final. Mackenzie Gore comes off the injury list and wasn't bad. 2 runs allowed in 5 innings. Strikeouts were down with 4 punch-outs from there. Mason Thompson, Cole Henry, they both led a scoreless inning, and Connor Pilkington, 3 runs, 2 of which were earned, give it up in the 8th. And for the Washington Nationals, nothing doing off of Ryan Weathers. First start for him in about 3 months. 5 scoreless innings from there. Tyler Phillips, 2 scoreless innings. Ronnie Enriquez, Michael Peterson, great name. They're both able to turn a scoreless inning. And for the Baltimore Orioles, they were able to turn a 3-2 win over the Pittsburgh Pirates as you don't mess with the Yohan Oviedo. Got messed with a little bit, but not too bad. 2 runs allowed in 5 2/3 innings. Colin Olderman, well, he did not live up to his name. He gave up a run in an inning, and he got the loss. Evan Sisk from there. 4 outside the bullpen squirrels. You did have Alexander Canario get his 6th home run season. That comes off of Cade Povich, but I think still a good start from Povich. 2 runs allowed in 5 2/3 innings. Yanier Cano, don't you know he gave you not out of the bullpen squirrels. Grant Wolf from Cade Stout and Keegan Aiken were all able to end scoreless innings, and a lot of scoreless innings from the Chicago White Sox. 5-1, they're able to take down the Tampa Bay Rays. Ian Seymour gives up 3 runs in 5 1/3 innings. Eric Orze, fresh from the minor leagues, gives up 2 runs in 2/3 of an inning. He did have 2 scoreless innings from Joey Gerber. Gerber man was able to come in, and for the Rays, 0 of 10 with men in scoring position. They leave 7 men on base. As for Shane Smith, he does a good job of evading danger. 5 2/3 inning scoreless. Tyler Gilbert out of the bullpen scoreless. Brandon Iser, Jordan Leisure, both leisurely give you a scoreless inning, and Tyler Alexander gives up a run in an inning. You had the Colorado Rockies get shut out by the San Diego Padres. What else is new? This by a count of 2-0, and that's yet another under for the Colorado Rockies on the road to have been quite good to the under away from home. 27 overs, 43 unders, and 2 pushes, and for San Diego, Jackson Merrill, really the big difference maker in this one. He's able to go deep off of McCade Brown, who honestly wasn't bad in this one. 2 runs allowed in 4 1/3 innings. He does give up that home run, number 11 of the campaign to Merrill, but Randy Vasquez was great. 9 punch-outs and 6 scoreless innings. The Colorado Rockies made him look like Sandy the Koufax out there. Jeremiah Estrada, Mason Miller, Robert Suarez all on a scoreless inning. And for the Rockies, Jaden Hill, 1 2/3 innings scoreless. Jimmy Ergett and Victor Vodnik, they're both able to turn a scoreless inning. For the Philadelphia Phillies, they continue to be pretty darn amazing at home. 6-4 the final. And for the Philadelphia Phillies, if you're looking at those home and road splits, by the way, 49-23 at home and 38-37 away from home. So not completely dreadful away from home, but certainly that home cooking has been very, very good to them. As for the Mets, David Peterson was spotted a 4-run lead and did a good job of helping to yak it away. 3 runs allowed in 5 innings. He gave up a home run to Otto Kemp, 6th home run of the campaign. And then Reed Garrett, he has been brutal recently. 3 runs allowed in 2/3 of an inning. Brooks Raley not out of the bullpen scoreless. Tyler Rogers and Edwin Diaz both lend a scoreless inning, but for the Mets, they get all 4 runs in the first inning as Jesus Luzardo gives up 4 runs in the first, but he manages to complete 8 innings, got 8 punch-outs, and then Yohan Duran from there was able to give you a scoreless inning. And you had a lot of scoreless innings out there in Cleveland as the Guardians get the job done against the Kansas City Royals, this by a count of 3-2. As for the Royals, Stephen Kolek, good start here, 1 run allowed in 6 2/3 innings, but then John Schreiber gives up a home run in the 8th, 2 runs in total in 1 2/3 innings, taking him deep. CJ Kafis, his 3rd home run of the campaign, and Gavin Williams, another solid start, 2 runs allowed over the course of 6 innings, did give up a bond to Vinny Pasquantino, 30th home run of the campaign, but Eric Zabrowski, Hunter Gaddis combined for a scoreless inning. Matt Fessa, Cade Smith, they had a fiesta. They were both able to get a scoreless inning, and the New York Yankees continue to be a very hot team to the over thus far this season as they're able to take down the Detroit Tigers by a count of 9-3, and they played a lot of overs in this series, by the way. And for the New York Yankees, Aaron Judge was judge, jury, and executioner. First inning home run, his 45th home run of the campaign, then a little bit later on, 46th home run of the season against Sawyer Gibson-Long, and then Giancarlo Stanton also off of Gibson-Long, 20th home run of the season. Tyler Holton, the opener, gave up that first home run, 2 runs in total in an inning, and Sawyer Gibson-Long in 7 outs of long relief, he gave up 7 runs including those 2 bombs. From there, Bailey Horn, Brendan Hennepy both give you 4 outs out of the bullpen scoreless. Tommy Canley, the former Yankee, and out of the bullpen scoreless, but walked 2, and Kadir Montero, not Montero, but 1 2/3 innings scoreless, and Dylan Dingler does go deep off of Ryan Yarbrough, 13th home run of the campaign. As for the Yankees, Cam Schlotter, really nice start, 1 run allowed in 6 innings. Ryan Yarbrough from there puts together 3 innings, gives up 2 runs along the way. And I'm doing this as we have to get the podcast up by midnight Pacific, 3 o'clock a.m. Eastern, and this game is raging on into the 9th inning, 4-4 between the Angels and the Seattle Mariners. Probably not going to get a final by the time this thing ends, and you had the over pretty much assured of in the 5th inning, and when Mike Trout was able to go yard for his 21st home run of the campaign, and for both starting pitchers in this one, not necessarily what they were looking for. As for Mr. Bryce Miller, gives up that home run. He gives up 2 home runs in total, 4 runs over the course of 5 2/3 innings, but he did get 11 strikeouts and also gave up a home run to Mr. Logan Davidson. And for Davidson, his first home run of the season. Meanwhile, for LA, Jose Soriano, 4 runs, 3 of which weren't given up in 4 innings. But from there, you've had Chase Silseth, Luis Garcia, Brock and Roll Burke, and Jose Fermin lend scoreless innings. And right now for Seattle, Edward Bizardo, 4 outs out of the bullpen scoreless. Matt Brash, a scoreless inning. Carlos Vargas, he just completed a scoreless 9th inning. So we shall see what is going to be happening on that front. And if you're looking trend-wise at what we're getting in Major League Baseball right now, last 30 days have been quite overwhelming in what has been an underwhelming season, including the over that we just got out there in Seattle, 184 overs to 185 unders, so a little bit over 51% to the over. Favorites on the money line hitting at just 52.8% over the last 30 days, so 207 and 185 on the money line, and over the last 7 days, just dismal. With the Angels versus Mariners game pending, favorites 43 and 47 on the money line, so that's not been great. Meanwhile, the unders have been very much coming through, 38 overs and 53 unders over the last 7 days, so that's about a 58.5% hit rate to the under, and overall for the season, unders hitting at about 51.3%, 1,075 unders, 1,023 overs, while money line favorites for the season hitting at about 56.3%, 1,221 and 947 on the money line. So that's what we're seeing in baseball right now, and that's where we're all getting trend-wise. Coming next, how about if we do chat with one of our good friends, Curtis Rogers, take a look at the American League landscape, the Mariners, and so much more right here on the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the Feast and Family Podcast.
If your small business has a problem, you could say,
Ugh, just my luck.
but you should say,
Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
and we'll help get you back in business. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by this man, as we've got Curtis Rogers aboard. He does such great work over at 710 Seattle Sports. Taking a look at this great game that we all know and love of baseball. He is the Seattle Mariners pre- and post-game host. He, much like myself, always taking a look at college basketball, so that's always a lot of fun. But I know he's also doing some work with the Seattle Mariners. The Seattle Kraken season is going to get started sooner rather than later. Hey, you've got a WNBA team out there in Seattle as well, so he covers a little bit of everything, does so also well, and you're able to follow him on the old Twitter/X and Instagram at A Kid from Kent. And Curtis, always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you.
Yeah, Greg, always happy to hop on with you. And yeah, when everything's going on, that must mean fall is starting to get closer and closer. And that means postseason baseball is starting to get closer and closer. And we're just a little smidge away from 2 weeks away from postseason baseball. So I'm super excited for it. This stretch run for both leagues is going to be hotly contested, especially in the American League, with every division, every race still up for grabs. It's a really exciting time to get into the game here.
Oh, it certainly is. And I just take a look at this American League, and is there any team that you would even peg as even a slightest of slight favorites right now? Because it just all seems so murky with the Tigers. They've fallen on some tough times here in the second half of the season. The New York Yankees bullpen is complete garbage right now. The Seattle Mariners, we've talked about it, they could be a little bit all or nothing as well, but they're looking like a pretty strong team. And the Astros, who have been there, done that so many times, they have really floundered with their offense since the All-Star break.
Yeah, that is the $1 million question right now. Who in the American League wants it? And you make a great point, because there just is not anybody right now that has stepped up and has said, I will take command. It's funny, I saw a stat put forth by ESPN's David Schoenfield. He was looking at the road records of recent World Series champions going back 20 years. The only team to win the World Series with a losing record on the road, that'd be the 2023 Texas Rangers. And I'm looking at the road records right now of a lot of these contending teams in the American League. The Blue Jays are at 500. They have a chance to finish below 500 on the road. The Red Sox are below 500 on the road. The Yankees are 37-34 on the road, but they could still finish below 500 on the road. You've got Cleveland at 37-37. The Astros are 35-35. The Mariners are guaranteed to finish with a losing record on the road at 34-41. The Rangers are 30-42. Nobody in the American League has a good road record this season, except for pretty much the New York Yankees at 37-34. The Tigers at 37-33. Outside of those two teams right now, Greg, I just don't see a lot. It's funny because in the early portion of the season, it was the Tigers and Yankees that were pulling away from everybody and were off to such quick starts. The Tigers have sustained for the most part. You did mention how they kind of slipped back a little bit here, but they're definitely running away with that AL Central. They're going to wrap that up any day now with their big lead over Cleveland. I do kind of wonder if that maybe will tell the story of which teams are for real and which ones aren't in the American League. I get that the Yankees, when they get cold, they get polar ice caps cold, but when they are rolling, they are a very talented ball club. Like, I'll give them that. I'm kind of wondering right now, Greg, I get that the Yankees have their flaws, but so does every team in the American League. It's really hard right now to kind of pick against what Detroit and what New York have done this season. I get that New York's going to have to go through the wild card round most likely, depending on, if Toronto can hang on the AL East. But those two teams right now, Greg, and really for the majority of the season, have been the class of the American League, even with Toronto holding on to first place in the American League currently.
And I'm so glad that you mentioned that they might need to go through the wild card round, as Curtis Rogers, who does such great work over at 710 Seattle Sports, is joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show, because we have noticed over the last few years the teams that have had the buys have not done very well. Now, shout out to the LA Dodgers, who got the job done last year and made it to the World Series, but we have seen a lot of years in this new format, which is still a relatively new format, that the week off in the wild card round hasn't done a lot of teams a whole heck of a lot of good. And do you think that this actually could be a year where it benefits these teams to play on the wild card weekend? Because I look at this year and how tightly knit things are, and I think that this could be the year that if you're playing your best baseball at the right time, if you're getting hot at the right time, this is the sort of year where that gets rewarded.
I think it's definitely a possibility for sure. And it's funny because the only other time in the baseball schedule where you get that many days off is the All-Star break. The stakes coming out of the All-Star break are so much lower than what they are at the start of the division series when you're playing for your season. It is a challenge, I think, for these teams to ramp themselves up, going from just complete dormant for the better part of a week. I believe it's 5 days before they play a game from the end of the regular season to the start of the divisional round. And yeah, that can be a detriment. But like you said, last year, the Dodgers were able to make it to the World Series. I believe the Yankees also made it to the World Series after getting a first-round bye. So, those two teams have shown that it can be done. But also, you look back just 2 years ago, it was the Diamondbacks and Rangers, two teams that were in that wild card round, making it all the way to the World Series. And the Rangers having one of the greatest postseason runs ever on the road, going a perfect, I believe it was 9-0 on the road in the postseason that year. Really tremendous job by them being able to navigate all the, treacherous landscape that is trying to go through the wild card round and then the divisional round, the LCS, and then the World Series. But yeah, I mean, it is so funky just how teams are able to either meet that urgency coming out of the time off between the end of the regular season and the divisional series, and teams just fall flat. We've seen the Dodgers 2 years ago get beat by the Padres in the NLDS. So anything can happen, and I kind of enjoy the randomness of the baseball playoffs. It's much more random than it's ever been, I feel like, especially with the additions of all these wild card teams, the addition of the wild card round. It makes for, I think, a very compelling watch once it gets down to the postseason.
Oh, it certainly does make it very compelling. And these playoff races are so hot and heavy because you mentioned it before. A lot of these divisional races have not been wrapped up as well, as we do have Curtis Rogers, who does such amazing work over at 710 Seattle Sports, joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show. And for the Mariners coming up this weekend, they've got a series against the LA Angels. If they are not taking care of the LA Angels at home, then they probably have bigger issues. But it really is going to be the meat of the Seattle Mariners schedule coming up here over the next week or two. They've got that road series against the Royals, and I know you've been on this podcast the last few years, and you've talked about how those Seattle versus Kansas City games in Kansas City, they're some of the wildest things we've ever seen. Like, the reason the Mariners were out of the playoffs last year is because I think they blew a 6-run lead in June in a random game against the Royals. So there's that aspect of it. And then they go on the road against the Astros. They should take care of the Rockies. And then they wrap up the season against the Dodgers. This is a tough stretch for the Seattle Mariners after this weekend against the Angels. And I think that this is going to be very paramount that they take these games against Los Angeles, because they're going to need to get some wins. And that series against the Astros coming up next week is a massive.
Yeah, these next two road trips for the Mariners at Kansas City and at Houston could really make or break their season. You mentioned the horrific times that the Mariners have had at Kauffman Stadium. As a broadcast crew, we were reminiscing about it the other day, and we specify which collapse are we talking about in Kauffman Stadium, because I believe 2 years ago the Mariners held, I want to say, an 11-1 lead in
I remember that game, and I had the Mariners on the money line.
Exactly, yeah. They were up 11-1 on the Royals in about the fifth inning, and then everything just fell apart. What's also funny about that game is that Robbie Ray and Kansas City reliever, now pitches for the Yankees, Luke Weaver, got ejected before the game for their national anthem standoff. That we all thought that was going to be the craziest part of the game. Little did we know that the game itself was going to be insane itself. So, yeah, Kauffman Stadium has been horrible to the Mariners over the last couple of years, and I think everybody's kind of dreading that portion of the road trip, especially because the Mariners, after the All-Star break, had not won a series on the road until they gave the Braves an absolute beating over the weekend, winning 10-2 and 18-2 in consecutive ball games. I think there's going to be a lot at stake in that Kansas City series, and then in Houston, you've got that Sunday night game being moved to Sunday Night Baseball. Obviously, the eyes of the baseball world are going to be on that series for sure, as it may end up deciding the American League West. Both those teams tied 5-5 in the season series, and Major League Baseball doesn't do one-game playoffs anymore to determine playoff seeding or to determine who's going to the playoffs. It comes down to tiebreakers, so whoever wins that series gets not only probably the lead in the American League West, but also the tiebreak scenario in case those two teams are tied at the very end of the season. So a lot to watch for the Mariners, for the American League West race, for that third wild card spot, as Kansas City still vying for that. So a lot to be determined here over the course of the next 6 or 7 days.
Oh my goodness, this is going to be so interesting to take a look at. And yep, I know all too well about those Mariners versus Royals series because every single year there have been some bad beats in terms of whether you've taken the Royals or if you've taken the Mariners, because I know that the Mariners had some sort of an insane comeback there a year or two as well. So some nutty games to be had on that front, as Curtis Rogers, who does such an amazing job over at 710 Seattle Sports, he is the Mariners pre- and post-game host, joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show. And I want to ask you about this because we have talked about the murkiness in baseball right now, how the American League is wide open. We could have probably an hour-long conversation about how the National League is just as open as well. But that said, is there a team or two that you're looking at right now that you feel like might be able to make that run, or you just feel like is playing some good baseball right now and they could be a team that busts out? Maybe not the team that's going to have the best record, is going to get the 1 seed, but you just feel like right now they're playing some good baseball.
I think a team that I am focused on right now would have to be the Philadelphia Phillies. I just feel like of all the teams that have gotten to where they are right now, the one that is, I think, the least surprising to me because they just have so much talent on that roster. It's just a veteran bunch that has played a lot of big games together. They have gone to the World Series recently, didn't win it, obviously, a couple of years ago as they fell to Houston in the World Series, but this is a battle-tested group. I mean, yes, the injury to Zach Wheeler, his season being done, that is a huge blow to them, but they've got a lot of rotation depth this season. To me, I look at the Phillies as a team in the National League that I don't know if they've gotten enough attention this year, which is hard to say because they're a team in Philadelphia. Of course, they're going to get attention, but with how good the Brewers have played this season, with the Dodgers obviously grabbing the headlines all season long and really grabbing the headlines even before the season, and the Padres being the Padres, the Cubs got off to such a quick start this season. It kind of feels like the Phillies, because they have played to expectations, have kind of flown under the radar. It's like, yeah, they're where they're supposed to be, but I would say right now in that National League, if I'm looking at a team that has the talent to get to the World Series and also just has the pedigree as well, the Phillies are a team that you can't ignore right now just based off of how deep that roster is and how elite some of that talent is in their lineup. I think they've got a really well-rounded bunch and definitely a team that I would not want to see opposite me if I were playing them in the postseason.
And I'm so glad that you mentioned that because it just feels like so many of the contenders this year just have not played to expectations, even though they're slotted in for the playoffs, what have you. The wins just have not been impressive for a lot of these teams. The Phillies, for lack of a better term, they've gotten the job done, but they don't get the job done quite like you, Curtis, because not only do you meet expectations, you always exceed expectations. You always play above the pay grade, and you always do an amazing job of going out there and doing a little bit of everything. The 5-tool player that we all come to expect. Let the good people at home know it's all on tap for you and how people can follow along on social media and other platforms.
Well, yeah, Greg, really appreciate it. You flatter me as always. We've got a great conversation on SeattleSports.com with Yahoo Sports' Jordan Schusterman, who does a great job covering baseball for them on a national level, taking a look at this Mariners team and how they can get to the postseason. Another edition of Extra Innings, our off-day show. 2 hours of baseball talk coming up on Monday. You can catch the podcast, SeattleSports.com, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, wherever it is you get your podcast, you can find it there. And Greg, always happy to hop on with you, talk some baseball, especially this time of year as we get closer and closer to the postseason. It's a lot of fun, and I always have a blast talking it with you.
Oh, it is always great to be able to chat some baseball with Curtis. He's such a wealth of knowledge, and things are going to be very interesting in the next few weeks out there in Seattle. That series coming up next week with the Astros is big, but don't sleep on these next few games against the LA Angels as well. They've been a little bit pesky, so lots of great baseball out there, and Curtis has a front row seat to it all. So big thanks to Curtis for joining me on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. And coming up next, it is that time to podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Friday as we touch them all.
If your small business is booming, you might say, cha-ching. But you should say,
like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
And we'll help your growing business. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by Curtis Rogers. He does such an amazing job over at 710 Seattle Sports, taking a look at this great game that we all know and love of baseball. Every single time he joins me, he lends such amazing insights. He did so once again today. So a big thanks to Curtis for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Friday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that as per usual, any changes are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at @GUnit_81, and we are going to be going in Las Vegas rotation order. This is where we go with the National League games first, then the American League games, any intra-league games. Those are going to be at the bottom. That'll keep things all nice, neat, clean, and easy. So how about if we get things started with a game that is presently off the board? This is 9:51, 9:52 on the card. It is the Pittsburgh Pirates. They are on the road. They're facing off against the Washington Nationals. Brad Lord says, oh Lord, to getting another start, and right now it is old to be determined who's going to be on the bump for the Pittsburgh Pirates, and that is why this game is presently off the board. When I was checking, it was looking like Mitch Keller should be getting the start, and as far as I've seen, he is not at the injury list. If he has, well, then that's just a whole different situation. But assuming that we do get Keller against Lord, I actually did set the Washington Nationals as a -133 favorite, so we'll lay up to a -132 there, plus 134 better. Looking at the Buccos, and then set a total to wear an 8.5 or less. I'm in on the over, a 9 or higher to the under. For Brad Lord, he has had his struggles when he has been in a role of a starter, and he was supposed to go yesterday. They swapped him out. They went with Mackenzie Gore instead, so we'll see if that does him any good or if that does him any harm, but that's up for Lord. Overall for the season, 420 ERA, only giving up about 0.8 home runs per 9 innings, but has allowed at least 4 runs in 3 out of his last 4 starts. 4.97 ERA when he is a starter compared to a 2.79 ERA coming out of the bullpen. It's given up a little bit over 3 walks per 9 innings, but what is really bad about the Washington Nationals, this bullpen, and I recognize that the Washington Nationals have been relatively hot here in the month of September, but I'm not making too much of it because for the Washington Nationals, you still have a bullpen that has these guys like Jackson Rutledge, Clayton Beeter, Shinkuzi Ugasara. So many guys are posting up above a 5 ERA. It's not even funny. Cole Henry is right now one of your best relievers at like a 3.75. So that's not great to say the least. We've seen some of the young guys pick it up a little bit. Dalen Lyles now hitting about a 280. CJ Abrams on the road has been great. He's hitting a 265 overall with his 17 home runs. 14 of them have come on the road. But then got the likes of Andres Chaparro, Robert Hassel, Brady House, Dylan Cruz, all these guys with less than a 300 on base. Josh Bell hitting above a 250 since the beginning of the month of July. He's been able to give you some good production. And on the flip side, for the Pittsburgh Pirates, well, it just has not been great to say the least. As for the Pittsburgh Pirates, you've got so many guys that are hitting below a 225 that's not even funny, as you've had Alexander Canario, Jared Trollo, Cam Devaney, Henry Davis, O'Neill Cruz, Jack Swinisky, just at the injury list. Not a bad thing. Like, man, they do not have a lot of guys move line. They only have 3 guys on the roster with a double-figure amount of homers. Tommy Phantom is now up to 9. He's hitting above 260, so he's giving you a bit of something. That'd be Cruz, Reynolds, and also Andrew McCutcheon, who've been able to give you those home runs. Bullpen isn't terrible. Isaac Madsen, Dennis Santana have been able to give you a sub-350 ERA. Colin Wilderman has been rough, to say the least. Story Moretta's giving you a little bit of something, and for Mitch Keller, his swing and miss stuff just has not been there thus far this season, but he's been pretty good in terms of inducing soft contact. For Mr. Keller, 4.16 ERA, feel like you'd better more on to 3.83, 2.4 walks, 0.9 home runs allowed per 9 innings, but only getting about 7.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. And I mentioned it with CJ Abrams, the way that he hits home runs away from home, but not so much at home. It is a national team that averages about 4.6 runs per game away from home, more like 4 runs per game at home. So interesting circumstance here. I do think that you're actually going to get some runs here, so 8.5 or less in on the over 9 or higher to the under with the Nationals. We'll lay up to -132 on that money line, plus 134 or better. Looking at the Buccos, 953, 954 on the board. It is the Brewers playing against the St. Louis Cardinals. Andre 3000 Palante is on the bump for the Cardinals, and Quinn Priester goes for the Brewers. And the Brewers, who find themselves between -180 to -190 favorites, plus 152 to plus 160 is at number on St. Louis, with 8 to 8.5 being the total. On the 8, over and under, both at -110. On the 8.5, under is -120, and the over is even. And I'm going to be in on the over. I set my total at an 8.7. All the better if you can get an 8, even if you have an 8.5. I do like this one. For Quinn Priester, he's been very lucky to not give up more than what he has this far this season, as he pitches quite a bit of contact. For Quinn Priester, he's only been able to get 7.2 strikeouts per 9 innings, albeit he's been able to do a pretty solid job in terms of soft contact, 1.1 home runs, 2.9 walks allowed per 9 innings, but a 4.19 fielding dependent compared to a 3.25 ERA, with just 5 earned runs allowed in his last 4 starts. I think that he's doing for regression, even against the St. Louis Cardinals team that is in the bottom 5 in the big leagues in terms of run production ever since the All-Star break. You do still have Wilson Contreras, who's been able to give you 20 home runs. He's up to right around about a 340 on base. I thought he got a tirade suspension, but I guess that just never happened. Alec Burleson has been able to give you 17 home runs. He's hitting about a 288, but you do have a lot of young guys that just have not stepped up for the team. The likes of Pedro Pages, Nathan Church, Jordan Walker, Nolan Gorman, Victor Scott, all these guys in a 227 or lower. Gorman has been able to give you 14 home runs, but you still need more power of this lineup. Pavon Herrera, about a 363 on base, 15 home runs. That's been relatively rock solid for this team, but they dealt with injury to Brendan Donovan. Cardinals bullpen has actually been relatively solid. You've got a lot of guys like Jojo Romero, Kyle Leahy, Riley O'Brien. These guys have been able to give you a sub 3.25 ERA, but Andre 3000 Palante, man, it feels like he's given up 3,000 runs at start, 4+ runs allowed in 6 out of his last 8 starts, so that's very much less than savory, up to an ERA of a 5.28 for the season, 6.2 strikeouts, so about 3 walks per 9 innings. His home runs per 9 rate is up to about 1.2 to 1.3, and faces off against the Brewers lineup that is currently number 1 in the National League in terms of run production ever since the All-Star break. They're not even doing it with a lot of power. They're right around about 21st in the big leagues in terms of home runs on a per at-bat basis, with Christian Yelich at his 27 bombs leading the way. He's been able to give you about a 350 on base, and then you do have a lot of guys around him that they just find a way to move the line, get on base. Isaac Collins, William Contreras, Sal Frelick, Bryce Terang. I'll give you at least a 355 on base. Andrew Vaughn in a Brewers uniform and a Brewers uniform only, hitting at 300 as well. Caleb Durbin, Andrew Masterio, they're hitting for about a 330 on base as well. Brewers bullpen has been a little bit shaky with Nick Mears, Trevor McGill on the injured list, but still have Abner Uribe, Aaron Ashby, who have been able to supply a sub 275 ERA. So I do think that the Brewers should be able to get the job done here. Grant Anderson has been rock solid as well, and with the Brewers, their money line I set a minus 208, even though I do think the Priester is going to give up runs. I think that they blast Palante, and if you're looking to lay a run off with the Brewers right now, that opener at FanDuel is plus 126. Sign me up there. I was willing to lay up to a minus 108, so like the over and the Brewers on the run line. 9:55, 9:56 on the card. It is the Rockies on the road against the Slam Diego Padres. JP Sears goes for the Pods. Tanner Gordon is on the bump for Colorado. It is a total unders between minus 110 to a minus 115. Over is minus 105 to a minus 110. Padres are between minus 272 to minus 310 on the money line. If you're looking at the run line, I'm seeing that pretty much at a minus 140 across the board, and then plus 239 to a plus 250, that number on Colorado, and I'm going to be willing to take the Padres on the run line. Wouldn't want to go past a minus 140, but I'm going to be willing to lay it. This Colorado Rockies offense is just dismal. Now, I am going to be on the over, even though the Rockies are averaging 2.9 runs per game on the road. That's dead sinking last in all baseball, and man, they have not had a lot other than Hunter Goodman in terms of hitting on the road, as Goodman has been very good. He has been living up to his name. He has been a good man, as he's been able to give this team 17 home runs, sitting north of a 250 away from home, but then you've got so many guys that are just doing nothing on the road. Jordan Beck, Mickey Moniak, Ezekiel Tovar, Brenton Doyle, all these guys are hitting below a 220 on the road. Michael DeGlia, throw him in there as well. And for the San Diego Padres, this is not necessarily the world's greatest power hitting team. They're in the bottom 6 in the big leagues in terms of home runs on a per at-bat basis, but you do have Ramon Laureano give you 355 on base overall between his time with the Padres and the Orioles, 20 plus home runs. You've had Gavin Sheets supplying 19 bombs. He's been able to hit a 265. Manny Machado, 23 home runs, 270 average. Luis Rice has been able to move line. Then Fernando Tatis Jr., 20 plus bombs, 360 on base. And I mean, it's been a case where the catcher spot has been an issue for this team. Freddie Fermin has been able to shore that up. And what has been very sure for the San Diego Padres, this bullpen, because I am not necessarily a JP Sears stan. He has always given up home runs. Even when he was pitching in Oakland, which was a very pitcher-friendly ballpark at the time, he would give up quite a bit of hard contact because this is just not a strikeout guy. Overall for the season between his time with the A's and the Padres, 7.5 strikeouts to 1.9 home runs allowed per 9 innings. For Mr. Sears, 5.01 ERA, 5.17 fielding dependent, but he is backed up by a bullpen that is number 1 in terms of ERA. The likes of Mason Miller, Adrian Morejon, David Morgan have been able to give you a sub 3.25 ERA. Wandy Peralta has been acting up a little bit, and they did have to use up Jeremiah Estrada yesterday, but he seems to be getting back online. And for the Rockies, Rockies, you had to use up all of your good bullpen pieces yesterday. Jimmy Ergen, Victor Vodnik, Jaden Nell, all posting up a sub-365 ERA. They all got used yesterday. That means that you're going to be looking to the likes of Anthony Molina, Nick Anderson, Anel Shavili, these guys with an ERA above a 5, while Mejia just below a 5, so that becomes a little bit of an issue. And for our good friend Tanner Gordon, he's been a little bit better recently. He's given up 300 runs or fewer in 4 of his last 5 starts. Even with that, he's still rocking an ERA above a 6. Now, if you look at the fielding independent numbers, he should be doing for quite a bit of positivity, as he's got a 463 fielding independent, 1.5 home runs, 2.3 walks per 9 innings, but really doesn't get a lot of swings and misses, 6.9 strikeouts per 9 innings, very, very nice. And when you take a look at him on the road, 9.33 ERA, 4 home runs, given up in 18 and third innings, he's been dismal. So I did sell my total at 8.3. I do like the over, and with the Padres willing to lay up to a minus 140 on that run line. 957, 958 on the card. The Giants play host to the LA Dodgers. Yoshinobu Yamamoto is on the bump for the Dodgers. Justin Verlander goes for the Giants, and the Giants do find themselves as a sizable underdog between plus 127 to a plus 130, minus 150 to minus 157, that number on Los Angeles. If you're looking to lay run half right now, I'm seeing that at plus 116, by the way, and total of 7.5 over and under between minus 105 to a minus 115. Need at least a plus 110 to take a shot on the Dodgers run line. Right now, seeing that at a plus 115 / plus 116. Sign me up there. For Yoshinobu Yamamoto, he has really been the stopper for the Dodgers this year. I know he had a few fumbles in the month of like late June, early July, but overall, he's been great. 272 ERA, 10.3 strikeouts, 0.8 home runs allowed per 9 innings, 2 earned runs or fewer allowed in each out of his last 3 starts, and a combined 26 strikeouts in his last 3 starts as well. Now he's really rocking and rolling. Has actually been better when he has been on the road rather than at home as well for Yoshinobu Yamamoto. In his road starts as far this season, he has been supplying a 2.33 ERA, and he's giving up less than 0.7 home runs per 9 innings. He faces off against the Giants lineup that has been a whole heck of a lot more lethal when they have been away from home rather than when they have been at home. That's because they have such a pitcher-friendly ballpark, about 4.1 runs per game at home, closer to about 4.65 runs per game away from home, though Rafael Devers finally living up to that contract for the San Francisco Giants and what they all gave up for him. As for Mr. Devers, ever since coming on over to San Francisco, he is now up to give the team over a 345 on base, 17 plus home runs, so you do like to see that. Matt Chapman, 350 on base, 21 bombs. William Adames not hitting for any average, but he has been able to give you 28 home runs. You've had Casey Schmidt be able to give you 10 home runs. He's moved the line. Eloy Ramos, Jung-Ho Lee are hitting in the neighborhood of about a 265 to 270, so things are sorting themselves out there, but Luis Monto is sitting at 220. The catcher spot, those have been issues for the Giants. This is a Giants bullpen, by the way, that's still in the top 3 in terms of ERA. No Tyler Rogers, no Camilo Duvall, no problem apparently, because you've had some guys really step up for this team. You've been able to get Joey Lucchesi, Jose Buto to both be able to give you a sub-3.2 ERA. Matt Gage has been rock solid. You've had Randy Rodriguez be good, though he hits the injury list, but Yoel Piguero, he has yet to give up an earned run in his first 12 and a third innings this season, so that's been a nice sign. And for the LA Dodgers, reinforcements are on the way. Kirby Yates, Tanner Scott, along with Michael Kopech, just come off the injury list. And I will say for Scott, along with Kirby Yates, both of these guys have not been great this far this season, both posting up an ERA above a 4, but you've been able to get some good production out of Jack Dreher, 275 ERA. Alex Vesia being injured has hurt the team, but Edgardo Enriquez has been able to give you a sub-3 ERA, so that's been something encouraging as well. And for the LA Dodgers, they have Max Muncy back, and that's big, because with Max Muncy out of the lineup, they average like a run half less than when he's in, and when he's in, they average typically about 5.6 to 5.7 runs per game. For Mr. Muncy, 17 home runs, 383 on base. Shohei Ohtani has been able to give you 390 on base. He's up to 48 home runs. Teoscar Hernandez, Andy Paz, 24 home runs apiece. So Hernandez giving you just a 280 on base. Paz has been able to do 275. Will Smith continues to get jiggy with it with a 400 on base. And for the LA Dodgers, I do think that they do get to Justin Verlander here. Verlander honestly has been better than what the record would indicate, and I feel like he's gotten just some bad luck in general. It's not like he's giving up a bunch of rockets this season. It helps that he's in San Francisco, such a pitcher-friendly ballpark, but 0.8 home runs, 3 walks allowed per 9 innings. It's a 409 ERA, but closer to 364 fielding dependent. Interesting spot here. I did sell my total in 7.6. This is a Dodgers lineup that I just don't think will be denied, so do like that over of 7.5, and I like the run line here of the Los Angeles Dodgers, 959, 960 on the card. It is the Baltimore Orioles on the road facing off against the Toronto Blue Jays. Chris Bassett has the hook, line, and sinker for the Jays, and Trevor Rogers is in the neighborhood for Baltimore. 8 is the total. Under is minus 115. The over is minus 105. Minus 134 to minus -137 is that number on Toronto. +112 to a +116 is that number on Baltimore. And with the Orioles, I set them at a +136. So we'll go up to a -135 here with the Blue Jays. Trevor Rogers is having a dream season. A 151 ERA with 2 runs or fewer allowed in 11 straight starts. I have no idea how he's doing it, but somehow, some way, with some form of sorcery, he's keeping the ball in the yard, and he's not even getting a ton of strikeouts. 8.2 strikeouts per 9 innings, which is not terrible, but he's given up 3 home runs in 95 2/3 innings on 8.2 strikeouts per 9 innings. That's just absolutely insane. 239 fielding dependent. He's doing for a little bit of regression, in my opinion, especially going against a Blue Jays lineup that is averaging 5.6 runs per game ever since the All-Star break. That is number 1 in the American League, and for the Blue Jays, they have just been so lethal at home, averaging about 5.25 runs per game at home. That is number 1 in the American League. You've had George Springer supply 28 home runs. He's up to darn near a 400 on base. He has been rock solid there. Vlad Guerrero Jr. hasn't had quite the power season that you'd expect, right around 23 home runs, but still has been able to give you darn near 400 on base. Bo Bichette has been able to hit 300. He's done a nice job of being able to put bat to ball with 18 home runs. He's been able to get 19 bombs out of Addison Barger, and then you've got a guy that doesn't hit for a lot of average in Dalton Varsho, hitting at 227, but a home run every about 11 at-bats, 18 home runs at 194 at-bats, just up and down the boulevard. Even the backup catcher in Tyler Heineman is hitting for this team. Now for the Blue Jays since the beginning of the month of July, 24th in terms of bullpen ERA at a 4.67. You've had so many of these guys like Braden Fisher, Brandon Little, Uriel Rodriguez, who have a sub-3.25 ERA for the season, really go downwards ever since. And Tommy Nance has been solid out of the bullpen, but he's been banged up all season long. And for Chris Bassett, it's been a very fascinating case for him. 3.97 ERA. He's given up like 2.7 walks, 1.2 home runs per 9 innings. I actually feel like he's pitched better than the ERA, and he's been much better at home rather than on the road. 5.42 road ERA, giving up on the road about 1.4 home runs per 9 innings. That goes down to 1 home run per 9 innings with a 2.78 ERA when he has been at home. And for the Baltimore Orioles, this has been a lineup that just has not been the same when they've been away from home rather than at home. For the Orioles right now, they are averaging about 3.97 runs per game away from home. Only the Guardians are averaging fewer runs per game away from home in the American League. Samuel Basallo has been hit or miss with this Orioles lineup all season long. Jackson, Holiday, along Gunnar Henderson, 15 plus home runs apiece, and Henderson has been able to supply 345 on base. Love what Dylan Beavers is providing, north of a 400 on base. Jeremiah Jackson has been able to provide 300 as well. So you've got some guys that are doing a nice job of performing, but someone like Kobe Mayo hitting below 200 has been an issue. And I do think that the Blue Jays end this just remarkable run for Trevor Rogers, and I do think that the Blue Jays open things up a little bit more on him. Semi-solid at 8.6. I like the over, and up to a -135. I'm willing to lay it with the Jays. 961, 962 on the card. The White Sox hit the road. They're facing off against the Cleveland Guardians. Tanner Bybee goes for the Guardians. Martin Perez is on the bump for the White Sox, and the White Sox do find themselves as a underdog of anywhere between +140 to a +148, anywhere between -170 to a -174. That number on Cleveland, with 8-7.5 being the total. On the 7.5, overs -115, unders -105 on the 8, unders -120 to a -125, overs between even and +105. And I do like this total over. I'm going to be taking a shot here. I set my total at 8.5. For Martin Perez, I do think that he's doing for a little bit more regression. His ERA is hovering right around about a 3.18. He's been getting about 7.5 to 7.8 strikeouts per 9 innings while allowing 3.5 walks per 9 innings. Got lit up in his last start on the road against the Detroit Tigers. Has been a lot better in Chicago, but we see this from Martin Perez a lot, where he gives you like 7, 8 really good starts and then he toilet bowls. I think that this is a point where he starts to toilet bowl, and then on the other end, you've got a guy in Tanner Bybee who's just been absolutely miserable recently. Like for Tanner Bybee, he is giving up 1.5 home runs per 9 innings. That is by far a career high for him. His swing and miss stuff is down. He's getting only about 7.8 strikeouts per 9 innings, a 4.69 ERA, but you just look at things ever since the All-Star break, that is where things have completely cratered, as he has given up 4+ runs in 8 out of his last 10 starts. And you look at the second half of the season, he is posting up a 5.50 ERA ever since the All-Star break, and post All-Star break, he's been giving up 1.8 home runs per 9 innings, and post All-Star break, the White Sox are actually producing on offense. The White Sox are a top 6 team in terms of runs per game. You've had the catcher spot be really good for this team. Kyle Teal along with Edgar Quiero, both hitting above a 275. Heck, the third string starting catcher, and Corey Lee is hitting like a 255 right now, so that's been solid. Jason Roth has been able to give you about a 350 on base. You've got Miguel Vargas off the injured list. He's up to 14 home runs. Colson Montgomery, Andrew Benintendi, 18 home runs apiece. You've had Lennon Sosa supply 20 bombs, hitting at 260. Like, this is an offense that is not striking out, and they're moving the line. Now, for the White Sox, this has also been a relatively rough bullpen with a lot of guys with a ERA above a 4. You've had Mike Facil be very rock solid for the team. He's been able to give you a sub 325 ERA. Same goes for Steven Wilson, but Elvis Peguero hits the injured list. Brandon Iser, Grant Taylor, Jordan Leisure, these guys are posting up north of a 375 ERA. And for the Cleveland Guardians, this has been a top 8 team in terms of bullpen ERA. The long guy in Colby Allard, along with Eric Sobrowski, Jacob Junis, these guys have been able to give you a sub 335 ERA. We've seen Cade Smith and Hunter Gaddis have their ups and downs all throughout the season, but the big thing for the Cleveland Guardians is that they do need to get some production from the bottom of the lineup, because Jose Ramirez has been great, 28 home runs, about a 360 on base. Stephen Kwan at the leadoff spot is hitting about a 275, but just a cavalcade of different guys hitting below 220 right now. CJ Kafis, Daniel Sheeman, Nolan Jones, David Fry, Bo Naylor, John Kenzie Noel, Austin Hedges, Jonathan Rodriguez. Man, not great to say the least, and I do think that there's a bit of value here with the White Sox. With White Sox at a plus 145 or higher, I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the money line, and it's up by total at an 8.5, so I'm in on the over. 963, 964 on the card. The Yankees are on the road against the Red Sox as Luis Gil gets a start for the Yankees, and Lucas Giolito is on the bump for Boston. This total is 9. The under is minus 120. The over is even, with the Yankees are minus 126 favorites, plus 108 on the Boston Red Sox, and I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the Red Sox money line. I set it at a minus 104. Luis Gil is the living form of Rick the Wild Thing Vaughn. I have no idea how this guy does not have a 4+ ERA right now, because he is walking guy after guy, but he's getting out of all of it. He has given up 1 or 2 runs in each out of his last 6 starts, 3.31 ERA compared to a 4.13 fielding dependent, and he's only getting 7.6 strikeouts per 9 innings this year. He's doing a good job keeping the ball in the yard, 2 home runs allowed across his 7 starts, 35 and a third innings, but he's given up 5.9 walks per 9 innings. Sooner or later, that is going to nip him in the rear end, and that is coming sooner rather than later. And then for Lucas Giolito, ever since he had that just awful start in early June against the LA Angels, this guy's been a completely different pitcher. Not a power pitcher. He's only getting about 7.5 to 8 strikeouts per 9 innings, but you look, ever since he had that horrible start against the LA Angels, he has been on a really good run. The team is 12-4 in his last 16 starts since that awful start against the Angels. In that time span, he's given up 0.9 home runs per 9 innings. He's only getting like 7.5 strikeouts per 9 innings again. He's been giving up about 3.2 walks per 9, but he's keeping things out in front of him. He's making sure that he's able to get the ball to the bullpen, as this is a really good bullpen for Boston. A top 5 team in terms of bullpen ERA. I know that Aroldis Chapman gave up a run against the Athletics in Sacramento, but everyone's giving up runs at Sacramento, and he's got a 1.25 ERA. He has been the best closer in all of baseball, but it's not just him. It's the likes of Justin Wilson, Garrett Whitlock, Steven Matz, the long guy in Garrett Whitlock, who have all been able to give you a sub 3.25 ERA, and the Red Sox are going to need it a little bit more, because Roman Anthony was giving the team darn near 400 on base at the top of the lineup. He's out on the full, but you still have a lot of guys that are hitting in that neighborhood of, we're going to call it a 252 to a 263, as you've got that out of Carlos Cervantes, Trevor Story, Jaron Duran, Nick Sogard, and Story's been able to chip in their 24 home runs as well. You've also got Rob Refsnyder, who I feel like should be getting more at bats, giving you 365 on base. Alex Bregman, obviously moving the line, giving you about a 360 on base as well, along with Rami Gonzalez. And when it comes to the New York Yankees, this bullpen has just been brutal. Bottom 5 of the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA since the beginning of the month of July. David Bednar has been a pretty solid ad, but it feels like everyone's failing this team. Even Luke Weaver a few days ago against the Detroit Tigers, he was really giving up some runs, as overall for the season his ERA is back above a 3. Right now you've had some relatively solid innings out of Tim Hill. He's been able to give you about a 3.15 ERA, but since coming off the injury list, Fernando Cruz has been a disaster. Devin Williams has been a disaster all season. Mark Leiter Jr. giving you over a 5 ERA. So the Yankees have no choice but to really slug their way to victory, as you've got Aaron Judge giving you that 440 on base, 44 home runs, and on any given night, this team can throw out there all 9 guys in the lineup, give you at least 19 home runs, which that's something that you like. But you've got Anthony Volpe, who's only hitting for about a 270 on base with 19 home runs. Austin Wells hits at Wells for 21 home runs, but not Wells with a 270 on base. Cody Bellinger hitting about a 275 with 28 home runs. Trent Grisham, 30 bombs, and he's been hot ever since the All-Star break. So interesting spot here. I think that Giolito gives you a relatively good good start, and that the Red Sox should be a slight favorite. Set them at a minus 104, so you're on that Red Sox money line. Made my total at an 8.9, so here at the 9, I'm also going to be in on that under. 965, 966 on the card. It is the Angels, and they are on the road against the Seattle Mariners. Luis Castillo goes for Seattle, and Yusei Kikuchi. I say that he's starting for the LA Angels, as right now the Angels are plus 138 on the money line. Minus 164 is that number on Seattle, and the total is 7.5. The over is minus 120, and the under is even. And for Seattle, I did set their money line price at a minus 154. If you're looking to lay run half, right now that's plus 134. I would be landing on the run line there. Need at least a plus 132 to be able to take a shot. Yusei Kikuchi just has not been good recently. Like, really not good at all. As for Mr. Kikuchi, it's a man that overall for the season has a 4.18 ERA. I've been off put by the walks, giving up 3.8 walks per 9 innings, but I mean, man, he has given up a combined now 18 runs over the course of his last 3 starts, and he has won 11 and 2/3 innings in those last 3 starts. So, yeah, that is not amazing, to say the least, for Kikuchi. Even though the swing and miss stuff has been pretty rock solid, he just has not been good on the road. 5.45 road ERA on the road. He has given up about 1.4 home runs per 9 innings, and Luis Castillo has been a completely different pitcher when he has been in Seattle. Overall for the season, a 3.85 ERA, down with the strikeout stuff very badly. 8 strikeouts per 9 innings. Only given up about 1.2 home runs per 9 innings, but he himself has given up 3+ runs in now 4 out of his last 5 starts. And with Luis Castillo at home, he's been a pretty presentable and a pretty rock solid pitcher. Not quite dominant Luis Castillo, but 2.79 ERA, giving up 1.1 home runs per 9 innings. That goes about 5.09 away from him. Now, Seattle is one of the most pitcher-friendly ballparks in all of baseball, which does hurt the fact that you've got so many home run hitters on the team, but even with that, you've got big dumper Cal Raleigh, who's been able to give you 53 home runs this season, darn near 350 on base, and Eugenio Suarez has been hitting just above a 200 since getting to Seattle, but he's been able to supply the team with 43+ home runs between Arizona and Seattle. You do have guys who are able to move the line from there, like J.P. Crawford is giving you 350 on base, Dom Canzone in that neighborhood about a 345 on base, Julio Rodriguez hitting at 270 with 30 home runs, Ori Polanco hitting at 260 with his 24 home runs, and for the LA Angels, all or nothing team, bottom 6 team in the big leagues with regards to on-base percentage, but a top 5 team in terms of home runs on a per-at-bat basis, as you've been able to have Joe Adell set fire to the rain with 35 home runs, about a 300 on base. Taylor Ward, 30 bombs. He's been able to give you about a 320 on base. Zach Netto's up to 26 home runs, hitting for about a 260. Even Mike Trout, 368 on base, but hitting just a 234 in terms of the average. 20 home runs this season. Logan O'Hoppe, 19 home runs with a 260 on base. Right now, they've been dealing with the injury to Ori Soler. Not a bad thing. He has been awful this season, but these young guys like Bryce Teducio, Christian Moore, throw in there Gustavo Campero. You've got a lot of guys at the bottom line up there just doing nothing whatsoever. And for the Angels, this has been a bottom 8 team in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. Now, Brock and Roll Burke along Kenley Jansen are giving you a sub-35 ERA, but still have the likes of Ryan Zephyrion, Sam Bachman, Jose Fermin. A lot of guys are right now giving you above a 4.5 ERA. Connor Brogdon over a 5 ERA. That's not been great, to say the least. And for the Seattle Mariners, the guys like Taylor Cicero and company have not been great, but Matt Brash, Andres Munoz, Edward Bazardo, the top guys, Gabe Spire, have been able to give you a sub-3.25 ERA. So I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the Mariners on the run line at a plus 132 or better, and did set my total at 7.8, so at the 7.5, I'm also in on the over. 967, 968 on the board. It is the Cubs playing OC Tampa Bay Rays. The Wizard of Boz, Shane Baz, is on the bump for the Rays, and Matthew Boyd goes for the Cubs. The Cubs do find themselves as sizable favorites between minus 170 to minus 178, plus 140 to plus 150 is that number on the Rays, but they total 7.5 on the lone opener that I'm seeing at FanDuel, which I'm feeling like this might be a little bit of a typo because it looks like the wind is blowing out in this game, over and under both at minus 110. I set my total at a 9.3. Like, maybe the forecast changes within the next few hours, and if that does change, I'll tick down my total a little bit, but it looks like we are going to be getting some wind blowing out at like 6 or so miles per hour, because this is going to be a day game, and it is going to be blowing out more towards like the 2 to 4 o'clock hours, and then towards the nighttime, it becomes blowing in just a little bit more, and it's not overly powerful. It's more like a 5 mile per hour wind, so even if it does start to blow in, it's not going to have as big of an impact as the wind typically does, but still, I just really don't understand this one, especially with the fact that Shane Baz has not been good this far this season. Like, the Wizard of Baz has been the wizard of giving up runs. 4.94 ERA, he's getting 9.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, but 1.5 home runs, 3.3 walks allowed per 9 innings. He has given up 3+ runs in all but 2 out of his last 7 starts, so that's been not great to say the least. And for the Tampa Bay Rays. They have had to utilize quite a bit of that bullpen recently, as a lot of these guys are on their innings limits. Shane Baz has went over 150 innings this season, so I think even if he is rocking and rolling, they're probably going to be limiting his workload because he's dealt with so many different injuries. And you've got the likes of Griffin Jacks, Brian Baker, have been posting up ERAs above a 4 thus far this season. Now you've been able to get some good production out of a few different guys, as you've had Cole Sulzer come back up to the big league level. Why he was down at the minors, I have no idea. He, Pete Fairbanks, and then throw in there Garrett Clevenger. These guys have been able to give you a sub 3.25 ERA, but Manuel Rodriguez in the injured list, that was not great for the team to say the least. Edwin Uceta, Mason Englert, they're both posting up above a 3.5 ERA. And for the Rays, are in the upper half of the big leagues in terms of run production. Junior Camanero's been able to give you 42 home runs. He's posting up a 260 average, though he's only got a 300 on base. Andy Diaz, though, 350 on base, 23 home runs. Brandon Lau, 28 home runs. He's hitting a 260. Jonathan Aranda hitting the injured list was not great, but still have Chandler Simpson hitting a 290 with 40 stolen bases. Jake Magnum, 24 stolen bags. He's been able to about a 295. The shortstop spot has just been an issue in general for the team. Along the catcher spot, you just have not gotten a lot there. It's a little bit of top-heavy lineup, but for the Chicago Cubs, I think that they're going to get their swagger back sooner rather than later with regards to their lineup, as this has been a bottom 4 team in the big leagues in terms of run production ever since the All-Star break. You saw Pico Armstrong and Seiya Suzuki stuck on 27 and 28 home runs, and they have been there for like a month. It's been a long time. Michael Busch still give you 26 home runs, 335 on base, but I mean, post All-Star break, he hasn't been quite the same. The guys have really been excelling for the team since the All-Star break. Ian Happ has been able to give you 365 on base with 8 bombs since the break. You've been able to get really good production actually out of Matt Shaw, who's got 9 home runs and is hitting about a 270 since the break. And Nico Horner continues at a 315, but Michael Busch, Seiya Suzuki, Pete Armstrong, who I mentioned before, Reese McGuire, these guys hanging below a 230 ever since the break. Carson Kelly, throw him in there as well. Kyle Tucker has only been able at about 250, though 375 on base post break. For the Cubs, this has been an upper half team in the big leagues in terms of their bullpen ERAs. You've got a lot of guys like Drew Pomerantz, Brad Keller, Caleb Theobar have really come into their own. They've been able to give this team a sub 3 ERA. Daniel Palencia had a rough weekend, but still 3 ERA. He's been relatively solid in this bullpen, and Matthew Boyd has really been rocking and rolling for this team. He has given up about 0.9 home runs per 9 innings. The strikeout stuff is down from his career numbers, only about 7.8 strikeouts per 9 innings, but he's only given up about 2 walks per 9 innings. I think that he does go out there, gives you a relatively good start, and I just, once again, feel like this total is way too low. I set my total at 9.3. It looks like we should be getting some wind blowing out just a scotch here, and right now with that run line, it's about a plus 125, plus 130 on the Cubs. I do like that run line, and I do like the over. 969, 970 on the card. It is the Royals on the road against the Philadelphia Phillies. Walker Buehler is on the bump for the Phils, and Michael Lorenzen goes for the Royals. 9 is the total, over is minus 115, under is minus 105. Phillies are minus 132 on the money line, plus 112 is that number on the Royals. I set my money line at a minus 155. I'm going to be willing to lay it here with the Phillies. I know that Walker Buehler has been awful thus far this season, but with the Philadelphia Phillies, they've been able to turn around some guys this year, so that's been nice. As for Walker Buehler, a nice hearty 5.45 ERA, 5.90 fielding dependent, 4.4 walks, 6.7 strikeouts per 9 innings, giving up 1.8 bombs per 9. This is going to be his first appearance since the 24th of August, where it looked like he was turning things around. He gave up 2 runs in 2 1/3 innings against the Yankees on the road. So, I mean, it was a little bit better, but yeah, man, it has not been great, to say the least. But, I mean, Michael Lorenzen is about as mid as it gets to utilize something that the kids use. 4.63 ERA, 4.53 fielding dependent, 1.5 home runs, 2.5 walks allowed per 9 innings. He's given up 4+ runs in 3 out of his last 4 starts, and faces off against a Phillies lineup that is second in the big leagues in terms of run production at home. They're averaging about 5.3 runs per game. Kyle Schwarber is giving you the Schwarbombs with about a 370 on base, 50 home runs as far this season. Now, Trey Turner down for what is on the injury list. That's not great, but you've still been able to get good production out of someone like Bryce Harper, who's up to 25 home runs, 350 on base. You've had Bryson Stott move the line, hitting about a 255. Alec Bowman, that injury has been hurting the team a little bit, but Armando Sosa continues about 275 for the team. They've been really nice in terms of mixing and matching, and since Harrison Bader joined the team, over a 400 on base, and the bullpen has really been able to come alive as well. I mean, it's been a rough bullpen overall for the season, but now you've got David Robertson, Orion Kirkering, Tanner Banks, Jose Alvarado on that bullpen. Everyone aside from Alvarado have been able to give you sub 335 ERA. Yohan Duran has continued to be magnificent for the team, and to the credit of the Royals, this is a top 7 unit in terms of their bullpen ERA. Lucas Erceg, Carlos Carlos Aceves have both been able to give you a sub-3 ERA. It's been a little bit hit or miss for a few of these other guys. Like, now you had to have Steven Cruz at the injured list once again. But Anel Zarpa has been much better recently. He's up to about a 3.60 ERA. John Schreiber has been a little bit up and down, but Taylor Clark give you about a 3.15 ERA. For the Royals, their offense has been better ever since the All-Star break, but still a bottom 8 lineup in terms of run production as Vinny Pasquantino is giving you 29 bombs, 100 RBIs, so that's been nice with his 260 average. Salvador Perez, 25 home runs, but a 278 on base, leaves something to be desired there. Bobby Witt Jr. just fills it up, 35 stolen bases, 20 home runs, 350 on base. You'd love to be able to see that, but the likes of Jack Caglione, Michael Massey, John Rave, the guys that they've been throwing out there at the bottom of the lineup have just not been producing for the team, and I think that's a nice soft landing spot for Walker Buehler in his first start with the Phillies. I did set the Phils at a minus 155 on the money line. I'm going to be able to lay that, and I like the over. I set my total at 9.3. 971, 972 on the card. It is the Tigers, and they're facing off against the Miami Marlins. One Sandy Alcantara is on the bump for Miami. Tariq Skubal goes for Detroit. Detroit is anywhere between minus 207 to minus 220, and then plus 170 to plus 180 is that number on Miami with a total of 7. The under is minus 120, and the over is even. And I did set my total at 7.4. I'm going to be in on the over, and if you're looking to lay a run half with the Tigers, I was willing to go up to a minus 144. That is right now minus 115. Sign me up there at Sandy Alcantara. He had like 3 or 4 starts where it's like, hey, maybe Sandy Alcantara's turning the corner, and then Sandy Alcantara became a fade once again in his last start, giving up 4 runs against the Philadelphia Phillies. So not great there. 5.67 ERA, albeit the advanced numbers show for a little bit of positivity. 4.25 fielding dependent. He's getting about 7 strikeouts to 3.1 walks per 9 innings. He's kept the ball in the yard, giving up 1.1 home runs per 9 innings, but it's also backed up by a bullpen that has been very sketchy recently. Lake Bakar is now give you north of 3.50 ERA. We'll say for the likes of Kay Gibson, Ronnie Enriquez, they've been able to give you a sub 3.25 ERA, but that Anthony Bender injury has been hurting them quite a bit. He's been one of their better bullpen pieces thus far this season, and you'll look ever since July 1st for the Miami Marlins, they're rocking out 4.53 bullpen ERA, so that's not great. And for the Detroit Tigers, this bullpen has been all over the place themselves since July 1st. They're 19th with a 4.37 ERA. Tommy Kahnle has just been terrible for this team. He and the opener and Tyler Holton are both giving you above a 3.70 ERA, but John Brebbia has sub 3.30 ERA. You've had Will Vest be able to come in there, give you some good innings as well. And for the Detroit Tigers, you don't need as much of the bullpen when Tariq Skubal is going out there, giving up only about 0.75 home runs per 9 innings, his 11.1 strikeouts, 1.5 walks per 9 innings, just absolutely remarkable. He's been great at home, he's been great on the road, and for the Detroit Tigers, this is a rock-solid lineup that has a pair of guys with 20-plus home runs. Spencer Torkelson, 330 on base with his 28 bombs. Riley Green, 33 bombs. He's up to about a 320 on base. And then you've got a lot of other guys that are just hitting in that neighborhood about a 253 to a 270. And pretty much all these guys, aside from Kerry Carpenter, between 11 and 15 home runs, as Carpenter has 24 bombs, and you 255. But Gleyber Torres, Zach McKinstry, Wencio Perez, Javi Baez, Zoltan Dingler, you've got a lot of good production there. And I do think that for the Miami Marlins, them being just so rough with their offense at home, as Miami is a very pitcher-friendly ballpark, but they're without their main home run hitter, and Kyle Stowers is an issue. 3.9 runs per game at home for the Miami Marlins is dead sinking last right now in the National League, as you've got Augustin Ramirez, who's been able to give you 19 home runs this season, but he's only been able about a 230, and he's been able with a few ailments over the last few days. Otto Lopez has been able to give you a bit more of something, 14 bombs, hitting about a 250, and Xavier Edwards, 340 on base, has been rock solid. Liam Hicks has been able to give you about a 350 on base, but you just don't have a lot of super pop with this team. Jacob Marcy, he's up to a 400 on base in a small sample size, and Alberto Hernandez has been able to give you about a 260 average, 7 bombs and 220 at-bats. I do think that the Tigers manhandle the Marlins in this spot, so do like the over, so my total 7.4, and with the Tigers, want to go up to minus 140 on that run line. 973, 974 on the card. The Rangers are on the road against the Mets. Jonah Tong is on the bump for the Mets, and Jacob deGrom is on the bump for the Rangers. 7.5 is the total, over is minus 115, the under is minus 1.5. Relative pick'em game here. The Mets are anywhere between minus 110 to a minus 112. Between minus 104 to minus 110 is that number on the Rangers. Whichever team becomes the underdog is what I'm going to be going with. I set the Mets at a minus 102, so this is pretty much a case where whichever team you're able to find at plus money, that's the team that I'm going to be betting right now, because we're doing this on initial openers, and right now the market has yet to decide which team really wants to be the favorite here, so we shall see what happens there. But For Jonah Tong, he was really good at the minor league level, was posting up a sub-2 ERA. He's getting 12 plus strikeouts per 9 innings. He had a little bit of a rude greeting to the major league level in his second start. First start went relatively solid, as he did give up a few unearned runs against the Miami Marlins, but against the Cincinnati Reds, gives up 4 runs, 3 home runs in that start in Great American Small Park. I do think that returning home is going to be big, and somehow, someway, the Texas Rangers, with Corey Seager on the injured list, with missing Marcus Semien, they just continue to hit, as Wyatt Langford has been able to give you 20 plus home runs. He's up to about a 340 on base. The Josh Smith, Josh Young, they both been able to hit just above a 250 to be able to give this team a little bit of something there. Rowdy Tellez, ever since they picked him up, has been rock solid, but you just have had a lot of guys have had a reversal since the beginning of the month of July. They were a bottom 5 offense prior to the beginning of the month of July. Ever since then, they've been averaging darn near 5 runs per contest. It did help that they had the 20 spot that they put up about a week or so ago against the LA Angels, but you just take a look at some of these guys post All-Star break, and they've been able to come into their own. You've got Jake Berger, who hit a pair of home runs against the Milwaukee Brewers a few days ago. He's hitting a 347 ever since the All-Star break. You've got Mike Ellman, who's hitting about a 275 with 5 home runs post All-Star break. Kyle Higashioka, he has been much better recently, so that's been big. And for the Texas Rangers, this is a top 8 team in terms of bullpen ERA. A lot of guys are able to come in there, be able to give you an ERA that is below a 305. Robert Garcia, Sean Armstrong, Cole Winn, Chris Martin, these guys have been solid. The Hobie Milner has been having a little bit of roughness recently. For Jacob deGrom, he's returning back to New York, so this is going to be interesting. Has honestly given up a little bit of the deep ball. He's given up about 1.3 home runs per 9 innings, but 9.8 strikeouts and 2 walks per 9 innings, 278 ERA. Feel you pennant more in the low to mid threes, but that said, is coming off of giving up 3+ runs against the Houston Astros in his last start. That was a little bit of an issue, and for Jacob deGrom, he has had the propensity to give up the deep ball a little bit when he has been away from home. On the road, he has given up about 1.5 home runs per 9 innings, and this is a Mets lineup that does have quite a bit of power in there, as you've had Francisco Lindor and also Brandon Nimmo hit about a 262, 265. Nimmo up to 22 bombs, Lindor's up to 26. Juan Soto, 400 on base with 39 home runs. Solid season there. Pete Alonso, about a 345 on base, 33 home runs, and all of a sudden, Mark Vientos, 17 home runs, hitting at 240. Brett Beatty, 15 plus home runs, hitting at 250. You've had Starling Marte move the line, hitting at 270. The big thing for the Mets is bullpen. Ryan Helsley has been absolutely terrible for the team, and I knew that Gregory Soto at some point was going to poop the bed. He did in the last series, so that was a little bit less than amazing, but Edwin Diaz continues to be one of the best closers that you're going to find in the big leagues. Sometimes puts men on, but he always gets out of it, so that's been solid. You've honestly been able to get Justin Hagenman to be able to give you a few good long relief innings as well, but Oscar Brazoban has been rough. Brooks Raley has been solid. In the end, I believe that the Mets should be the slightest of slight favorites, but again, pretty much whoever becomes the underdog is who I'm going to be betting. I set the Mets at a -1.2 on the money line, so looking for anyone to be able to become plus money in. Somebody told 7.3, so you're at the 7.5. I'm in on the under. 975, 976 on the card. It is the Astros on the road against the Atlanta Braves. Right now it is TBD for the Astros, and we do know that we're going to get Hurston Waldrop getting the start for the Braves, so this is a game that's presently off the board, but I've got my handicap. Assuming that it's Waldrop versus a bullpen game, and I do think that AJ Bluebaugh is going to be factoring into this for the Astros. I did set the Braves at a -132, so 131 or better. Willing to lay it with the Braves plus 133 or higher. Going to be looking at the Astros. I made a total of an 8.6, so 8.5 or less. I'm going to be in on the over a 9 or higher to the under. Now, if it is Bluebaugh who is indeed going to be the bulk, and he's been seeing some longer relief appearances recently. For Bluebaugh overall for the season, 257 ERA. He's made 7 total appearances. He did make 1 start, but he went 3 1/3 innings on the 9th against the Toronto Blue Jays, so you can't think they'd be able to give you a ton of length. It'd be like a, and I quote here, starter, but can be able to give you a little bit of relief, and then he passes it on to a bullpen that has been dealing with a few injuries. Bennett Sosa, Josh Hader, they hit the injury list, but you've got the Bryans, Brian King, Brian Abreu, Steven Okert, who have been able to give you a sub 325 ERA in this bullpen, and big key for the Astros, just getting a little bit more offense, as this is a Astros team that is in the bottom 5 of the big leagues in terms of run production ever since the All-Star break. Now, you do get Yordan Alvarez back. He's been able to give you over a 360 on base. The power numbers have not necessarily been there, but he's been able to find a way on. Carlos Correa is hitting at 275. Jose Altuve, 24 plus home runs. He's hitting at 260. Like, you've got guys that are hitting for a solid average. You don't get a lot of walks out of these guys, though. Like, you take a look at the lineup that they trotted out there yesterday. Jeremy Pena and Yordan Alvarez were the only two guys in that starting lineup with above a 329 on base. So that's an issue. Like Yanier Diaz, he's hitting for a 255 but a 285 on base with his 19 home runs. Christian Walker, 20 plus bombs but a 297 on base. You just need a little bit more there. And then on the other end, you've got a Braves lineup that ever since the All-Star break, they've been in the top 10 in terms of run creation. Having Ronald Acuna Jr. out there with his 4 on base, that obviously is big for this team. And then Matt Olson along with Marcell Ozuna have been your main matchers this year. Ozuna's up to 20 home runs, hitting just at 228 but a 355 on base. Olson, 23 bombs. He's up to about a 370 on base. Michael Harris is another one of those guys that he's hitting for a 241, but a 261 on base. 17 home runs, though, so that's been solid. And Drake Baldwin, Sean Murphy, a combined 31 home runs at the catcher spot. Murphy's hitting at a 200, but Baldwin at 270 average, 340 on base. Big issue that the Braves have had has been a rough bullpen, bottom 10 in the big leagues in terms of ERA since the beginning of the month of July. As we have seen Dylan Lee have a little bit of regression. He and Esbel Hernandez between a 330 and 350 ERA. Mauricio Iglesias has been better, but too little, too late. He, the Dodd father, Dylan Dodd, Aaron Bummer is dealing with injury, hovering between about a 350 to a 385 ERA. But Hurston Waldrop, how about this guy in his 7 appearances? 133 ERA, not a strikeout artist, but still solid with regards to the swing and miss stuff. 8.4 strikeouts per 9 innings. Now, he has been giving up over 3.5 walks per 9 innings, but has limited hard contact, 2 home runs allowed in 40 and 2/3 innings. Might be doing for a little bit of regression, but minus 131 or better. Looking at the Braves, plus 133 or higher, the Astros, and then made a total to where an 8.5 or less. I'm in on the over. A 9 or higher, I'm going to be diving in on that total under. 977, 978 on the card. It is the Diamondbacks on the road against the Minnesota Twins. Pablo Lopez is on the bump for the Twins, and Brandon Pfaadt goes for the Arizona Diamondbacks. 8 is the total. Over is minus 120. The under is even. Between minus 130 to a minus 136 is that number on Minnesota. Between plus 108 to a plus 116 is that number on Arizona. And I did set the Twins on the money line at a minus 125. If you're looking to lay a run half with them, you'll find that right around about a plus 158. I'm even seeing as high as a plus 165. I'd be willing to go a plus 160 or greater. I'm hoping that we get a little bit more of an affordable money line, but Pablo Lopez, he just spent a lot of time on the injured list, but he comes back in his first start and he looks relatively solid. Gives up 2 runs over the course of 6 innings against the Kansas City Royals after a 3-month layoff. When he's actually been out there this year, he's been pretty solid. The swing and miss stuff has been down to about 8.8 strikeouts per 9 innings, but 2 walks, 0.8 home runs per 9 innings. Pablo Lopez has been a guy that over the last few years, in my opinion, has been doing for some positive regression. And for Brandon Pfaadt, he's not worthy of the record that he currently has. As for Brandon Pfaadt, he has a 13-8 record with a 5.18 ERA and a 4.19 fielding dependent. He's been a little bit unlucky in terms of the runs that he's given up, as he doesn't really hurt himself with 1.9 walks per 9 innings, but he's only getting 7.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. That's led to him giving up about 1.3 home runs per 9 innings. And when it comes to giving up the deep ball, that has been a big-time issue for him, as on the road, he has allowed 19 home runs in 70 and 2/3 innings, and he's got an ERA of 7.13 away from home. That is about 2.2 home runs per 9 innings. Now, he faces off against a Minnesota Twins team that's relatively gutted, but the Minnesota Twins have been able to crank out the deep ball a little bit more themselves, as for Minnesota, you saw Matt Wallner has been able to give you 20-plus home runs this year, albeit he's hitting about a 210. The on-base percentage has been a little bit better, but Cody Clemens, he's been able to supply the team with 16 home runs. Again, he's hitting about a 206. Byron Buxton has been the main constant, 335 on-base, 31 home runs. Trevor Larnach continues to give you 16 bombs, hitting at 255, and then you've had Ryan Jeffers be able to move the line, 353 on base, so these guys have been relatively solid. This is a Twins bullpen that is just all sorts of awful right now. They trade away all their good guys like Yohan Duran, Brock Stewart, Louis Varland at the trade deadline. So now you're relying upon the likes of Michael Tonkin, Cody Funderburk, Cole Sands, Justin Topa. We're all posting up above a 370 ERA in this bullpen. And then on the other end, it's been a bullpen of the Arizona Diamondbacks that certainly had their issues as well. Bottom 6 team with this regard. Andrew Selfrank has been a nice find for this team. He's been able to give you a sub-3 ERA. You've got Ryan Thompson coming off the injury list. That should help a little bit. But Kyle Bacchus, Tyler Rashi, Juan Murillo, Jake Woodford, so many guys posting up above a 4 ERA as well, but it is a Diamondbacks lineup that is in the top 7 in the big leagues in terms of run creation. Now you don't have Eugenio Suarez along Josh Naylor, but Geraldo Perdomo, 383 on base. He's been able to supply 18 home runs. You've got Corbin Carroll up to 30 bombs, hitting at 255. You've had relatively good production out of Gabriel Moreno with hitting about a 285. So you've got a lot of guys that have been able to do a solid job there. Some of the young guys have been able to give you a bit more of something. Jordan Lawler has been awful. That's not been great to say the least, but that said, you've got someone like a Blaze Alexander who's been able to give you about a 330 on base. So interesting circumstance here. We could get down to a minus 124. I'm looking at the Twins on the money line, but right now that plus 160 run line is where I'd be looking there, as I do think that the Twins get to Brandon Pfaadt. I semi-total at 8.3. So at the 8, I'm in on the over, and we wrap things up with 979, 980 on the card. The Cincinnati Reds, and yes, we're on to Cincinnati. They're on to Sacramento to face off against the Athletics. For the Athletics, it's JT Ginninjuice going for them, and Brady Singer goes for the Reds. Reds are plus 102 underdogs, minus 120 on the Athletics with a total of 10. Over is minus 115, the under is minus 105. Now, JT Ginn is a little bit of speculation. They might utilize an opener for him, but he should be pitching in some form or capacity, and that has me on the Cincinnati Reds. I set the Reds at a minus 138 on the money line, so I'm certainly going to be looking there, even if JT Ginn is not the starter, because for JT Ginn, 4.95 ERA with 1.6 home runs allowed per 9 innings this year, but at home in Sacramento, 6.64 ERA with 2.7 home runs per 9 innings, and that's been par for the course for all of these pitchers in Sacramento. They all have terrible home numbers, and for Brady Singer, he comes in really good form. Overall for the season, 3.98 ERA with 3.4 walks allowed per 9 innings. He hasn't given up the deep ball, 0.8 home runs allowed per 9 innings, but 0 or 1 runs allowed in 6 out of his last 8 starts. I love to see that. Now, for the Reds, it's a very average bullpen. You've got Emilio Pagano, who gives up a few too many home runs, but he's been able to give you a sub-3.25 ERA. Tony Santillan has been able to give you a sub-3 ERA as well, but you've had some guys like a Brent Suter act up a little bit recently. Graham Ashcraft has been a little bit shaky as a long guy, and for the Reds, they don't necessarily have that one like super-duper match where Ellie De La Cruz has been stuck on 19 home runs for quite a while, give you about a 330 on base, but just have a lot of guys in general that they find a way to be able to move the line, get on base, as De La Cruz, along with Austin Hayes, Gavin Lux, TJ Friedel, Navoli Marte, only between about a 264 to a 274. Pretty much all these guys, aside from Hayes, have given you at least a 330 on base. So Marte, he's also had about a 320 on base, but he's been able to give you 12 home runs at about 280 at bats. You got Austin the Say's kid up to 15 home runs himself. Miguel Andujar, since joining the team, he's been able to hit about 370, though he's been in and out of the lineup. And Brian Hayes at 355 on base has been solid. And for the Athletics, top 7 team in terms of run creation ever since the All-Star break, as you've got a quartet of guys with at least 24 home runs, and all 4 of these guys have supplied a batting average of a 265 or greater. Shea Langeliers, Shea Banks, Brent Rooker, Tyler Soderstrom, Nick Kurtz, and Kurtz is up to a 4 on base. He and Shea Langeliers lead the way with 30 home runs. You've had the bottom of the lineup be shaky to say the least. JJ Bleday has 14 home runs, but he's only been able to hit for about a 220. You've had someone like Kobe Thomas be able to give you a little bit of power, but he's hitting like a 210. William McIver, the backup catcher, hasn't been able to give you too much either, and this is a bullpen of the Athletics that is in the bottom 5 of the big leagues. In terms of bullpen ERA, you do have Michael Kelly and also Mr. Sean Newcomb, who have been able to give you a sub-335 ERA, but you got a lot of guys that just have not been able to give you good innings. Likes of Ben Bowden, Grant Holman, whenever he's been out there because he's out with injury. Osvaldo Bido has been utilized as a starter and a bullpen piece. Scott McGill, so many guys that are posting up a 4.25 ERA or greater, so do think that the Reds are going to be able to lay it on the Athletics here. I did set the Reds at a minus 138, like their money line, and set my total at a 10.2, so here at the 10, I'm in on the over, and that'll wrap things up for the Friday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN family of podcasts. If you do like hearing from this fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, whatever for this podcast, you have one of 2 ways to be able to fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, letters M, they mean does not matter, so per usual, please do send these into the timeline. Other ways, find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review, and a big thanks to Curtis Rogers, who does such great work over at 710 Seattle Sports, for joining me in the last segment, coming at you guys every single day on this podcast, regular season and postseason, so I'll be back with you once you get them out. Thank you.
Hey, Fidelity. What's it cost to invest with the Fidelity app?
Start with as little as $1 with no account fees or trade commissions on U.S. stocks and ETFs.
That's music to my ears.
I can only talk.
Investing involves risk, including risk of loss. Zero account fees apply to retail brokerage accounts only. Sell order assessment fee not included. A limited number of ETFs are subject to a transaction-based service fee of $100. See full list at fidelity.com/commissions. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC, member NYSE, SIPC.
Let's say your small business has a problem. Like maybe one of your doggy daycare customers had an accident. You might say something like,
"Doggone it!
Hi, Chihuahua!"
Holy schnauzers.
But if you need someone who can actually help, just say,
"Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there."
And get help filing a claim from your local State Farm agent. For your small business insurance needs, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Did you know that parents rank financial literacy as the #1 most difficult life skill to teach? Meet Greenlight, the debit card and money app for families. With Greenlight, you can set up chores, automate allowance, and keep an eye on your kids' spending with real-time notifications. Kids learn to earn, save, and spend wisely, and parents can rest easy knowing their kids are learning about money with guardrails in place. Sign up for Greenlight today at greenlight.com/podcast.